These blasphemous texts are the Necronomicon. It was written by the mad Arab al-Hazrad himself and was found in the possession of a desert-dwelling Sufi tribe in Upper Egypt. It contains forbidden knowledge and unholy incantations. You have been warned. The Grimoire of Hastur. Recovered fragment, catalogued under the seal of Hali. In the elder days, when the plains lay wide beneath the turning of the Hyades, there was among the shepherd folk a hidden god who heard the prayers of the humble. He was called Hastur, guardian of the flocks, whose shrine stood in a place apart, known only to those who rose with the sun and gave thanks for the safety of the night. In those times his countenance was veiled from mortal sight, and he walked not openly among men. Yet his favour was sure for those who tended their charge with care, for he stayed the wolves of darkness and turned the torrents aside from the fold. The shepherd who prayed in the dawn found the hand of the god upon the land, though no form came forth to meet his gaze. His protection extended beyond the hill country to the far-off cities when his servant demanded it in faith, and to such as served him in truth he gave blessing without measure, their devotion enduring beyond the span of mortal days. In the solitude of the uplands, the voice of Hastur was carried in the rustling of grass and the murmuring of streams. Beside his shrine, those who had been delivered from peril offered their vows anew, knowing that to serve him was to hold his favour forever. The shy immortals of wood and water honoured his servants, for they knew him as one who stood apart from the restless powers, and whose silence was deeper than their own. His nature in those pastoral years was beneficent, yet even then he revealed himself only through signs and providences. So it was in those first ages that Hastur was known as a lord of shepherds, benign and hidden, hearing the prayers of his devoted and answering with favour. When the youth Hator bent his knees at sunrise before the shrine of Hastur, the god was pleased with his devotion. When torrents threatened to wash the fold away, Hator swore that if the world were not spared, he would cease his worship. Knowing the truth of the vow, Hastur stayed the waters and turned them toward the sea, so that the cities of men were delivered. Thus the god revealed himself not by sight, for he was never disclosed, but by providence and miracle. The first tales speak of the land of Carcosa, ancient and desolate, where sere grasses and blasted trees lay under leaden clouds, and sometimes a rift would open in the heavens to reveal Aldebaran and the clustered Hyades, tokens of powers not born of earth but of the gulfs beyond. In that place the shepherd Hator, unwittingly serving a god not of mortal kind, learned that the devotion of the humble is treasured beyond reckoning, and that service to Hastur endures beyond all seasons. Yet, as the ages wheeled beneath the black stars, the name of Hastur came to be uttered in darker whispers. From the shores of the lake of Hali there arose the plays and canticles of the king in yellow, whose words were a snare to the mind. Those who looked upon them found terror mingled with joy so keen it shook the soul. The memory of the pallid mask became bound to the thought of Carcosa, the twin suns, and the lengthening shadows of mortal thought. No creed proclaimed, no doctrine named, yet the very essence of the text worked like a hidden venom, binding its reader to a realm where beauty and dread were one. The black stars above Carcosa burned with an unwholesome light, and the Hyades hung over waters that reflected not the sky of earth but another, older firmament. The book called The King in Yellow struck terror into the soul and made mock of reason, for no man who began its pages could lay it aside. With trembling and with tears they read, unable to resist the exquisite torment, their minds pierced by horror and delight alike. In its lines was the shadow of Carcosa, where the pale mask drifted on the ripples of Hali, and where the name of Hastur was linked to prophecies not of earthly making. In these latter days, Hastur was no longer known only as the shepherd's god, but as the unspeakable, the one not to be named. Certain sages joined his name to the company of the old ones that stalk the star spaces, setting him among the princes of that dread kindred. Great Cthulhu was named among the beings of the sea, but Hastur was cast forth into the far gulfs, to dwell where Aldebaran burns in the Hyades. Of old he rebelled against the elder gods, and for that rebellion hid himself within the black lake, not bound but watchful, awaiting the time when the star wheels shall turn in his favor. Some have spoken of his descent from the spawn of Azathoth, naming him half-brother to dread Cthulhu, and telling how he took to wife the goat with 1,000 young, from whom came the abominations Nug and Yeb. His lineage is thus bound in the web of cosmic kinship, feared even by those who dare not name him. To utter his true name is to invite his notice, and in the mouths of men it is held a curse beyond all others. The realms wherein his power is greatest are the cities of Hastur and Alar, whose isolation is known to the initiated. Between them lies the memory of a sundered covenant, and forever shall they strive in bitter contest, flesh against phantom, black against white, until the appointed hour when the struggle shall be resolved. Carcosa herself stands apart, her towers mirrored in the stillness of Hali, yet bound to Hastur's fate by the weaving of time. The prophecy of Casilda declares that no king shall reign in Hastur until the coming of the king in yellow, whose presence shall lift the siege and restore the dynasty beneath the black stars. In some chronicles his genealogy is set beside the last kings of Carcosa, of Aldones and the Phantom of Truth, and the foretelling of the king in yellow's coming when the covenant of the sign was. The mingling of the living and the dead is forbidden, yet Hastur's dominion is of spheres beyond both, and his will makes mockery of mortal decrees. In the turning of the eons his name has become a sign of dread power. There are places upon which he has set his seal, so that none may stand before him. From the gulfs between galaxies he glides, the feaster from afar, taking sustenance where he will. Those who dream in his shadow find their sleep bound in images from which there is no waking, for he takes from them the mastery of their own thoughts. Even when the yellow book is cast aside, its poison endures in the soul. Thus his legacy is not only in the cities of the Hyades, nor in the cults that cry his name, but in the lingering blight upon the mind that has looked upon his sign. Though in the first dawn of his worship he guarded the sheepfold and turned away the wolf, now his dominion stretches from the fields of earth to the gulfs where the black stars burn. In the secret councils of the old ones he is numbered among the princes, yet his nature is twofold. To some he is the veiled benefactor, unseen but not unfelt. To others he is the harbinger of madness, the masked king whose presence unravels the thoughts of mortals. Both these natures are true, for in him are joined the pastoral god and the cosmic rebel, the protector and the unspeakable, and none may say which face they will behold when they call upon his name. So is his origin set forth, from the hidden shrine in the high pastures to the pallid throne beside the lake of Hali. From the unspoken blessings of the shepherd is dawn to the cursed seal upon the places where he has walked, from the name uttered in gratitude to the name not dared upon the lips of men. Know then that Hastur was, Hastur is, and Hastur shall be, until the stars themselves are quenched and Carcosa sinks beneath the waters of the last night. Yet though his being endures beyond all reckonings of time, his form is ever hidden, and his presence is known only by the signs that betray his passing. Great is the dread of Hastur, and few there are who dare to speak his name aloud, for the utterance of it is to invite his notice, and no mortal who is marked by him may count his days as his own. From the first dawn of his worship until the present, his manner is concealment, his presence known not by open visage, but by signs and shadows, and by the strange disturbances of the mind that fall upon those who pass unwitting near his haunts. In the scrolls of forgotten shepherds, he is recorded as a guardian whose hand turned the torrent from the fold, yet who never disclosed his face. As the breath is unseen yet bends the grass, so is his passing felt in the quailing of the heart, in the oppressive stillness before a storm, and in the nameless apprehension that darkens the thoughts of men. No likeness of him endures, for his substance is not bound to any form known upon the earth, and the soul that strives to shape him in thought risks losing itself in the void it creates. To the unready mind he comes first as a sign, most dreaded of which is the yellow sign. This sigil, wrought in onyx or traced in dust by the hand of a sleeper, is as a key to the inward gate. Those who take it to themselves are drawn into his sphere. Whether the yellow sign first summons his thought, or is itself the impress of his presence upon the world, no mortal sage may say. Yet its influence is subtle and enduring, and even to gaze upon it in idle curiosity is to awaken a hunger that will not be satisfied until the whole will is yielded to him. The pallid mask is another of his tokens, pale as fear, its eyes staring and blank, its countenance without expression. To some it seems the mask of a man, to others a face of unearthly proportion, yet always it hides more than it reveals. There are plays in which a stranger goes masked through the streets. This role is his, and no actor may embody it without peril. The mask veils the destroyer, and whoso wears the pallid mask need not fear the yellow sign, being already claimed among his own. His cults are secret companies who hail him with names unknown to the uninitiated, calling upon him in tongues not spoken under the sun. Their chants are set to rhythms older than the race of man. E-yah, E-yah, Hastur Keftagen. A sound more than syllable, cleaving the barrier between worlds. These invocations bind the worshipper into his web, and in certain rites his coming is foretold by the rising of the Hyades and the march of Aldebaran across the heavens, when his power waxes strong in the world. In their ceremonies, the yellow sign and the pallid mask are not mere tokens, but anchors for his descent. The rites demand darkness, the mingling of blood and opiate vapors, and the breaking of mortal will before his name. None who call upon him may claim to have seen his true shape, yet all speak of a breath upon the neck, a presence at their back, as if the veil between them and the black stars had grown thin. When he is pleased to clothe himself in semblance, there are regalia prepared for his use, robes fantastically wrought and torn by time, a jeweled crown marked with the sign, and shoes of pointed make beneath a tattered hem. In some visions he appears twice the height of a man, a streamer of silk falling from the hood's peak, bearing in his hands a torch inverted that smokes but casts no light. His outline wavers as mist above a lake, so that none may say whether he is winged or haloed. At times he walks as a crowned figure robed in yellow, bearing no face, at others as a masked stranger in the streets of Carcosa. At others still as the feaster from afar, black and shriveled, gliding from the gulfs with tentacles tipped in talons keen as knives. These avatars are fleeting, and all are but imperfect vessels for a presence too vast for mortal eyes. There are darker showings, when the haven he seeks is no palace nor city, but the living vessel of a mortal body. Then is the soul displaced, and the form it once moved becomes his dwelling. In such possession, the features are twisted into a mockery of their former aspect. The eyes sink into folds of alien flesh. The limbs flail bonelessly as the arms of the sea creature. The voice speaks with purpose not its own, deepened or strained, broken into syllables from beyond Aldebaran. Women have spoken in the tones of men, and men in the twang of alien tongues, and through their mouths pour names and visions no ear had heard before. Witnesses of such trances tell of winged things with twisted heads, their bodies of ash and iridescent scale, passing at the edges of sight and leaving behind a scent of brine and decay. These apparitions are heralds of the unspeakable, moving unseen yet heard, cloaked in the forms of those he has claimed. Nor is his dominion confined to the waking world. In dreams he holds sway, binding souls in visions from which there is no escape. The river of night's dreaming bears away those ensnared, and they wake no more to the life they knew. The play of the king in yellow is the gate to this realm. Those who read its lines find their dreams seized by the king, their course no longer their own. In such visions he may come as the feaster from afar, descending with talons to rend the spirit of the dreamer, or as the pallid mask, drifting through the streets of Carcosa, or as a formless shadow in which all light is quenched. The words of the Yellow Book are not mere story but vessels of his spirit, and in taking them into themselves readers make covenant with him. From that hour sleep is his dominion, and in waking there is no escape from the shadow of his thought. Thus is Hastur known among the sages, never fixed, never plain, yet in all guises alike dreadful, whether as the silent pallid mask, the consuming yellow sign, the voice that shatters the soul, or the dream that no dawn can banish, the unspeakable, is present. And though he never discloses himself wholly, his shadow lies across the hearts of men, and none who feel it may ever again be free. Yet his dominion is not only over men, but over the very places where dream and eternity are joined, and foremost among these is Carcosa, seat of his pallid court. Beyond the ken of mortal chart or compass lies the dominion of Hastur the unspeakable, feaster from afar, him who is not to be named. There the towers of Carcosa rise in ruin from a wind-scoured plain, their once white stones yellowed and pitted by the touch of unnumbered ages. Black domes and monolithic spires are etched like the teeth of some forgotten beast against a canopy of low, lead-colored cloud. No warmth comes from the winds that pass along those streets. They bear instead a dry and heavy breath, as of a dream held in suspension. The plains that gird the city are clad in sere grass tall as a man's breast, that moves without sound in air, that is neither of day nor of night. Here and there stand the blackened trunks of blasted trees, and in their shadow are scattered stones of strange shape and hue, as though the bones of the world had pushed themselves through the skin of the earth. Over all hangs the oppression of a sky seldom seen, yet sometimes rent to show the far-burning Aldebaran and the clustered fires of the Hyades. These cold beacons alone tell the seeker that he stands beneath the heavens of Carcosa, and not of any earthly firmament. Upon the shores of the Lake of Hali the stillness deepens, for no birds fly there, and no living thing disturbs its stagnant waters. The twin suns descend into that black expanse, casting shadows without form that reach far over the plains. At their setting, the black stars mount the sky, and with them comes a weight upon the thoughts of men, so that they seem to shed their own shadows as garments. In this hour, the memory of the pallid mask comes strongest upon the wanderer, and the dread certainty steals into his heart that this is the court of the King in Yellow, and that the hour of audience is at hand. Carcosa was once a seat of kings, gleaming in the reign of Aldones, yet by the coming of the phantom of truth and the breaking of the covenant of the sign, it fell into division and decay. Hastur and Allah were set thereafter in enmity, their strife written in the march of the black stars, to be renewed in each cycle of the heavens until the appointed time. The city stands now as a relic caught between life and death, its splendor dimmed yet not wholly gone, awaiting the one whose return shall lift its siege beneath the Hyades. The cult of Hastur began in the high pastures, in rites as simple as the offering of milk and bread at dawn, whispered thanks in the shelter of caves, and prayers murmured beside the spring. In those days his favor came as the turning of the torrent from the fold, or the stilling of the wolf's howl at the edge of night. Yet the shepherd's god grew into the Lord of Carcosa, and his worship spread from the hill shrines into darker sanctuaries, where the yellow sign was traced in gold upon onyx, and the tongues of the Hyades were spoken. Among men, his followers are scattered but bound by secret signs. They bear the sign upon their persons, hidden from profane eyes, and by it they know one another. Their convocations are held at the sinking of the twin suns, when Aldebaran stalks the sky. Then the air is thick with the smoke of offerings, and the chant, Iya, Iya, Hastur Keftagen, rises like a tide, calling upon the unspeakable to cross the veil. Some sects claim blood pact with the dwellers beyond, their lineages kept as vessels for his descent, nor are his servants of humankind alone. From the primal seas come the guild races, kin to the spawn of Cthulhu, yet sworn to Hastur's will. From the voids between worlds descend the lizard, crustaceans of Yuggoth, bending space to walk between spheres, and from the buried gulf stir the Shoggoths, amorphous and unbound, to serve as formless messengers of his design. There are also the airborne terrors, shriveled and black as things long dead, with talons like knives and eyes of no earthly hue, who fall silent from the high gulfs to bear his command. In dream as in waking, these servitors carry the contagion of the yellow sign, walking unseen through the streets of mortal cities, veiled in the semblance of the pallid mask. Wherever the sign is marked, in stone, in shadow, or in the pattern of stars, there is the court of the King in Yellow, and his will is done by those who bear it. In the elder eons, when the black stars were young in their courses, Hastur contended with the elder gods, and with those of his own dread kindred. Cast into exile among the gulfs of Aldebaran for rebellion against the elder decrees, he became prince among the old ones, lord of a host whose loyalty was to none but his cause in those ages was sown the enmity between him and great Cthulhu, whose dominion lies in the abyssal deeps. One claims the skyways and the paths between galaxies, the other the world rivers and the trenches of the seas. Yet the boundaries are not fixed, for when the star wheels align and the Hyades burn at zenith, the borders fail and their servitors cross into each other's realms. In some cycles they have clashed for mastery over the same havens, their conflict echoing in tempests upon the waters and in storms of fire among the stars. In others, they have stood in grim accord against the hosts of the elder gods, when the doom of the great old ones was threatened by the ordered powers. The sages of Itil reckon such rare alliances by the occlusion of the twin suns before their descent into Hali, a sign that the veil between Carcosa and Relia has thinned to the breadth of a single thought. The reach of Hastur is measured not only by these cosmic tides, but by the pathways that bind world to world. His servitors traverse the void on vessels of alien craft, or fold the spaces between, as the lizard crustaceans of Yuggoth are known to do. Others pass through the gates of dream, stepping from the courts of Carcosa into the waking streets of far-flung worlds. These gates are not always sought. Some open at the summoning of the yellow sign upon a soul, and in such moments the victim is drawn into his sphere without leaving their mortal place. It is thus that his influence is carried between dimensions, unseen but not unfelt, shaping the designs of empires and the fates of worlds. When the Hyades rise full and Aldebaran hunts high in the night, the feaster from afar glides from the cold gulfs, his way prepared by the signs in heaven and the works of his cult below. Then the waters stir in the drowned vaults where the guild races abide, and the high airs shiver with the passing of winged horrors unseen. In those seasons, the borders of earth are porous, and the will of Hastur moves swift among the spheres, laying claim to what the elder gods would forbid him. Yet his dominion is not bounded by the waking world alone, for Hastur treads also the shifting realms between sleep and death, where the laws of the flesh do not hold. Many who have never spoken his name have found themselves wandering in Carcosa in dreams, their feet upon the dim shore of Hali, their eyes lifted to a sky filled with strange suns and black-starred constellations. The air in these dreamscapes is heavy with the scent of unseen waters, and the silence is broken only by whispers in the tongues of the Hyades. Some dreamers behold the pallid mask moving among them, its blank gaze falling like a brand upon the spirit. Others hear the lament of Casilda carried on a wind that has no source, her words fading before they are known, yet leaving the heart unquiet ever after. There are those who wake with the yellow sign traced upon their skin in patterns of shadow or bruise, though they have never seen its like in waking life. Such marks are not of the body alone. They draw the dreamer again and again into the presence of the king in yellow, until the border between dreaming and waking is no longer known. There exist also liminal places in the waking world where the veil is thinnest, worn by the passage of the king or by ancient sorcery. In such places, the wind may carry voices not born of earth, and the waters may reflect skies not their own. Shadows move against the fall of light, and the forms of dream take on weight and substance. Here the laws of the mortal realm yield to those of Carcosa, and the unwary may cross without knowing into the court of the unspeakable. Those who linger in such thresholds court his notice, for he is master of the borderland between the real and the unreal. The wise do not seek these crossings unbidden, for the gate once opened may not be closed at will. There are tales of sleepers whose bodies lie in trance, while their voices speak in alien cadence, their eyes fixed as if beholding the black stars through some window of the soul. Some return from such sojourns altered beyond the knowing of their kin. Others do not return at all, their shades wandering the endless streets of Carcosa beneath the changeless sky. In this manner is the reach of Hastur extended beyond the limits of flesh and stone, into the cycles of the stars and the mutable landscapes of dream. His signs are set in the heavens and in the hidden places of earth, in the tides of Hali, and in the unquiet thoughts of those who have glimpsed his mask. To name him is peril, to serve him is to be bound beyond life, and to dream of him is to tread a road that ends only in Carcosa, from which there is no return, for thus do the realms of dream and the courses of the stars meet in the rites of men, whose worship has ever borne the shadow of the unspeakable. In the elder days, when the black stars had not yet shifted from their courses, the name of Hastur was spoken in the high meadows and along the banks of shining streams. Then was he the silent lord of the uplands, the warder of flocks, the unseen benefactor whose hand turned aside the wolf and stayed the torrent. His worship was unadorned, for the shepherds offered no gilded altar, nor carved idol, but gave him praise at the rising of the sun and the falling of dusk. They bowed toward lone standing stones or knelt by the spring, speaking low prayers for the safety of their charges, trusting that he, though hidden, would incline his favor toward the faithful. In those days his covenant with the herdsmen was of mutual care. They tended their flocks in faith, and he, from his unseen watch, spared them from disaster. His answer came not in thunder nor in flame, but in the stilling of the wind before the storm, in the sudden turning of flood waters, and in the silence of the forest where danger had passed. The shy immortals of wood and stream bore his blessings on their breath, moving unseen among the folds and meadows. Thus the earliest cult knew him as a god who spoke not in voice but in sign, whose presence was felt as the quelling of fear and the lightening of the heart. As the aeons turned, the pastoral piety of the hills was overlaid with darker devotions. The whisper of a text, neither law nor creed, began to move among the learned and the mad, the king in yellow. No record tells whence it came, but its progress was like a pestilence, striking down reason as a plague strikes the flesh. Those who read it could not set it aside, for in its syllables was a poison older than the seas, a cadence that bound the will to the shadow of Carcosa. Its verses held no commandment, yet they worked upon the soul like a spell, filling the mind with images of black-starred skies, twin suns sinking into Hali, and the face of the pallid mask glimmering at the edge of thought. Where the book spread, the yellow sign followed. Sometimes it was wrought in onyx and worn against the heart, sometimes traced upon parchment, carved into stone, or found unbidden in the fall of shadow and the grain of wood. Its shape drew the gaze and altered the spirit, turning thought toward the service of the king in yellow. To bear it knowingly was to carry an open petition for his gaze. To see it once and cast it away was to invite his notice unprepared. Even the idle curiosity that lingers upon its form is counted among the transgressions that bind the soul to his dominion. The sign serves also as a mark of fellowship among the initiated. In market or palace, in temple or wasteland, those who bear it may know one another without word or gesture. In some sects it is given as the last seal before the revelation of the play, in others as a ward to shield the bearer from the sign's own consuming power. It is both talisman and snare, opening the inward gate through which Hastur's thought may pass. The use of the sign is itself a rite. In certain convocations, it is set upon the brow or over the heart at the rising of Aldebaran, that the dreamer be marked for visions in which the pallid mask will appear. At the height of the Hyades in the night sky, it is lifted toward the heavens as a beacon to those who dwell beyond the spheres. Some workings call for it to be cast into fire, while invocations are spoken in the language of the Hyades. Others demand that it be traced in dust or blood at the threshold of the place prepared for his descent. The summoning of Hastur is not undertaken lightly, for his name in the speech of men is peril to the caller. Yet there are those who dare to cry aloud, Iya, Hastur kef ayak vuglagen, Hastur kef tagen. In the stillness of night, such chants, mingled with the names of his dread kindred, thin the veil between worlds, and at times the unspeakable comes, gliding from the cold void into the waiting veil. To some he comes as vision or shadow, to others he takes body and soul as his dwelling, making of them a living temple until the mortal frame is spent. The heavens themselves declare his approach. When Aldebaran burns low, and the black stars muster above the Hyades, the king in yellow is said to walk the hidden roads unto Hali. Then, whisper the elder cults, he contends with Cthulhu for mastery of the earth's havens, while the elder gods, distant yet vigilant, watch lest the balance be broken. On such nights the air grows thick with dread, and in desolate places are seen figures too tall for mortal kind, shrouded in tatters, masked in pallor, bearing no face yet gazing upon the world with a will older than the spheres. These signs, feared of old, are the heralds by which his imminence is known. Through the long cycles of the heavens there are conjunctions foreordained, by which the way of the unspeakable is opened. When the black stars take their stations above the Hyades, and Aldebaran hunts the night with a baleful fire, the watchers know that the hour draws nigh. Then the twin suns are said to sink together into the lake of Hali, and their waning light runs like molten silver over the still waters. The air hangs close and heavy, for the veil between the worlds grows thin, and through it may pass the thought and presence of him who is not to be named. These portents are not of mortal devising, but were set in the deep ordering of the spheres when the elder firmament was young. From the elder time came also the promise of a haven, no tower nor city of stone, but a living vessel of willing flesh and soul, wherein the great prince of the old ones might abide for a span and wield his will among the worlds. To make ready such a haven, the star signs must be read aright, the yellow sign brought forth, and the invocations of the Hyades spoken at the height of Aldebaran's flame. The preparation is done in secrecy, far from those who would call upon the elder gods to bar his entry, for the haven must be hidden until the moment of his descent. Through the decay of centuries, certain brotherhoods have kept the form of this worship. They meet in ruined courts or in chambers where no sunlight falls, guarding their rites from the profane. The chants are held in the tongue of the Hyades. The brows of the chosen are marked with the sign, and in the darkness they sink into trances that make the soul a ready seat for the king. In such states the eyes film over, the voice is altered beyond the compass of its nature, and speech in alien syllables pours from the lips. This is counted a high honor, for they believe the breath of Hastur moves within them, and the mortal frame is lent to his service. Those who have been so taken speak afterward of visions that are tokens of the bond between vessel and master, winged things whose heads are twisted cords and whose blood is green as sap, towers rising from black waters under suns that give no warmth, streets that curve back upon themselves beneath skies of alien hue. Names are heard in the dark that no human tongue was shaped to utter, among them Shut-Ruah of Aldebaran, said to serve the will of the king in the star-crowned court of Carcosa. In the courts of certain dynasties there endures a custom older than the line of kings, wherein the hall is arrayed as for judgment, and the great ones assemble robed and masked. These masks are not for concealment alone, but are seals of office and wards of power. Chief among them is the pallid mask, whose blank and whitened visage is a dread more potent than any naked face. It is said that he who wears it fears not the yellow sign, for the sign's dominion cannot take hold upon one already numbered among the king's own. Yet this protection is not lightly granted, for the mask is also a bond. To take it is to swear fealty to the covenant that binds the house to Hastur. The bloodlines of such houses are bound to the king by pacts wrought when Carcosa's towers still shone. Through these lines passes not only the rule of the realm, but the charge to uphold the rights that hold the siege at bay and keep the stars in their courses. When the mask is set upon the face of a new ruler and the robe embroidered with the sign laid upon the shoulders, the covenant is renewed. The black stars are said to shift subtly in the sky to witness the oath, their light falling strange upon the lake of Hali. But the mask binds as well as shields. He who wears it and breaks faith with the king in yellow loses the veil of its protection. The sign then burns upon the brow, and the soul is drawn down into Hali to wander beneath the twin suns until the last turning of the heavens. Thus the mask serves both as talisman against the master's consuming will and as seal of obedience to his design. Beyond the masked courts lie relics of yet darker virtue. Some sects venerate the 60 stone, called by a name that few dare speak. This black monolith bears 60 sigils in an unreadable hand, and its surface is said to thrum with a power felt in the bones. Before it, sacrifices are offered in silence, and the blood poured until the stone runs slick and sings. Whether it grants communion with the king beyond the stars, or serves as a cipher to unbind the soul, none but the initiated may say. Yet all agree that its contemplation is peril, and its possession a summons that cannot be recalled. And the 60 stone is not alone, for there are other relics, scattered and hidden, which likewise bear the shadow of the unspeakable. There are relics in the world that bear the shadow of Hastur, and to hold them is to invite his notice. Some are stones engraved with sigils that predate the raising of mountains. Others are fragments of meteoric metal fallen from no known star, yet all carry the same invisible blight. Fire cannot purge them, nor can the hammer break their essence, for their true shape is not in their matter, but in the thought that dwells within. To gaze too long upon such an object is to discern its secret name. and to speak that name aloud is to open a path between the soul and the black-starred gulfs where he abides. Many who have uttered such names have found their voices no longer their own, bent thenceforth to the service of him who is not to be named. These objects are never venerated in open light, for their potency thrives in shadow. In some brotherhoods, the bearer stands before a closed circle, while the others pass their hands above the relic without touch, chanting in the speech of the Hyades to draw down the attention of the king in yellow. In others, the talisman is set at the center, and the gathered inhale the vapors of opiates brewed to sunder waking thought. Then visions come. The soul is drawn across the void to a hall whose walls bear no seam, where the elder throne rests upon stone colder than night. Their vows are spoken, not upon flesh, but upon the hidden self, and these bindings endure beyond death. Such vows demand a price. Often the initiate must offer a deed of blood before returning through the dream gate, for the lords of the black gulfs delight in the spilling of life. Yet the sacrifice may be of another nature, a theft against kin, a betrayal of sworn oath, or an act of ruin wrought in secret. The offering is weighed in the unseen court, and if judged worthy, the dreamer wakes with the taste of lake water on the tongue, and the vision of twin suns seen dimly through pale mist. Those deemed unworthy do not return whole, but wander in Carcosa's streets until the last turning of the spheres. In lands where his name is feared, cunning men and secret orders bend that dread to their own governance. They whisper of the fate that falls upon trespassers of certain bounds, and mark the doors of the unwanted with signs said to draw his gaze. None dare cross those so marked, lest the night bring the slow tread upon an empty stair, or dreams of the pallid mask beneath alien suns. Even without true invocation, such portents bind the will, for fear itself is a cord that draws the soul toward the one who feeds upon it. Among the scattered and the desperate survive fragments of elder rites, carried in murmured lineage from one adept to the next. These fragments are incomplete, frayed by the failing memory of men, yet each is venomous in its smallness. When patched together into crude semblance of the whole, they may unseal doors long shut, and what comes through is seldom that which was sought. Those who traffic in such piecemeal sorcery rarely live long, yet at times the king in yellow himself deigns to look upon them, and their lives thereafter are shaped to his design. Foremost among his tokens is a book, clothed in many titles yet ever marked by his essence. To possess it is to bear a talisman more potent than any carved stone, for its pattern lies beneath the printed word, entering the eye even when the mind resists. Whether read in comprehension or in bafflement, it alters the reader's dreams, bending their paths toward the shores of Hali. By day, familiar streets grow strange. The faces of kin take on the stillness of masks. The voices of friends echo from some immeasurable distance. In time, the sound of unseen waters fills the ear, the mists rise unbidden, and Carcosa stands revealed beneath the black stars. These objects, rites and hidden workings, form an unbroken chain linking the waking world to his pallid dominion. Each is peril and each a path, and beyond them, under the light of twin suns sinking into the still waters, waits Hastur, inscrutable and eternal. Thus are such tokens not only snares for the soul, but heralds of the greater hour foretold, when the veils shall be rent, and the king in yellow shall return. In the Elder Scrolls it is set down that the course of the unspeakable is not counted in mortal years, nor in the revolutions of the sun, but in the slow wheelings of the black stars beyond Aldebaran. When their stations are fixed in the Hyades and the twin sons of Carcosa sink in unison into the lake of Hali, then shall the veils be thinned, and the king in yellow take once more his place upon the high balcony. The pallid mask shall turn toward the assembled multitudes, and they shall not know if they gaze upon the likeness of a man or the shadow of a god. In that hour, the covenant of the sign shall be renewed, the siege of ages loosed, and the feaster from afar shall gather what is his. Yet the elder kindreds speak in dread of that coming, for the opening of the way is the loosening of seals, and in the return of the king is also the unmaking of the realms of men. It is written in the prophecy of Aldones that the division of flesh and phantom shall endure only until the turning of the heavens brings all into conjunction. Then shall Hastur, prince of the old ones and exile from the elder thrones, rise from the black waters, wherein he has kept his watch since the casting out. Not as a captive does he abide, but as a hunter in concealment, awaiting the hour when those who banished may not bar his passage. And when the appointed sign is given, the dominions of earth and the far spheres beyond the Hyades shall be joined, and no boundary shall divide waking from dream, nor the living from the company of the dead. From the days of Hali the wise it has been known that the lake is both cradle and tomb of the unspeakable. In its depth lies the form none have beheld, and above it moves the phantom of truth, forerunner of the king. The winds that trouble its black surface bear faint whispers of the play whose name is peril to speak, and in those words is the seed of the great return. Many have seen these tokens and gone mad, for the burden of the appointed hour is too great for flesh to bear. Those who dream of Carcosa and wake in terror have brushed the hem of the yellow banner, and their days are thereafter set toward the fate decreed for them. To mortal reckoning, life is the passage from darkness into darkness, yet in the doctrine of the unspeakable the two are as one, for death is but translation, and life but the pause between veils. The servants of the yellow sign teach that the dead do not depart but walk in the still avenues of the immemorial city until the last star of the Hyades fades. Then shall the king summon them forth, and their bones shall be clothed in bodies not of flesh nor of pure spirit, but of that substance wrought in the gulfs between. Thus shall the company of the dead stand in the courts of Hastur, wearing the raiment of a realm older than the race of men. Yet the gift of resurrection is also a bond. Those raised by Hastur may not return to the lands of men, except as emissaries of his will, which is not the will of mortal rulers. Within them burns the spark of the black stars, drawing their thought ever toward Carcosa. They move unseen among markets and dwellings, their gestures mistaken for madness, but in truth being the signs of the Elder Covenant. In their sleep they hear the waters of Hali upon marble keys, and await the sounding of the trumpet that will call them to assembly. The covenant sworn in elder eons ordains that all marked by the sign, whether the mark be set in the flesh or hidden within the soul, shall be claimed when the king ascends. Some will come in gladness, others in dread, some will be drawn in chains unseen. All shall stand before the throne in yellow, and in the gaze of the pallid mask shall see the whole of their life reflected as in a flawless mirror. Then shall the king judge without appeal, for in that day the elder gods will be far off, and none will gainsay his hand. Thus do the scrolls of the Hyades proclaim that the end and the beginning are one, that death is the way to renewed service, and that when the black stars shine at noonday, the world shall be remade in the image of Carcosa, with the waters of Hali covering every land, and all living and dead gathered beneath the reign of him who is not to be named. When the black stars are fixed unmoving above the Hyades, and the twin suns set together into Hali, the first shadow falls upon the age. The lake's surface is stilled as though awaiting a command, and over the marble quays spreads a silence deeper than the grave. The towers stand without light, and the banners crumble to dust in air that does not stir. In that hush, the mists rise pale and slow, shaping the semblance of the pallid mask, whose gaze cannot be met and whose form no tongue may describe. In the season before this dusk, the plains beyond the walls are clothed in sere grass, unmoving under a laden sky. Amid blasted trunks and dark stones stand the watchers, still as carven idols, their faces turned to the gates that shall open only when the king returns. Fragments of the Uldone cycle name these as neither living nor dead, but bound in the half-light to bear witness at his coming. The poets of the Hyades tell of a sky where black stars burn at noon and familiar constellations vanish in an unclean radiance. In that firmament the sign shall be seen, set in a pattern beyond mortal craft, and those who behold it shall be taken in spirit to the courts of the immemorial city. There they will hear the trumpet sound once, its echo passing from world to world until even the elder thrones are stirred. This dusk is not the fading of a sun, but the dimming of the world's very substance. Colour leaches from all things, men's voices grow faint as though spoken across a vast distance. In dreams multitudes will see the causeways to the water, the empty ships lying with prows toward deeper darkness. Many will walk those ways in sleep, and not return to waking. The veiled prophecy of Hali warns that when the shadows of men's thoughts grow longer than the day's end, The king will stand upon the high balcony with the phantom of truth at his right and the silent watcher at his left. Then the covenant shall be weighed, the seals broken, and the age of silence and ruin loosed upon the spheres. The decrees of the unspeakable are neither written in mortal script nor carved in stone, but uttered in the tongues spoken before the shaping of the earth. They ride the winds across Hali, and none who hear can forget them. The first decree is the promise, that he will return when the black stars are fixed and Aldebaran stands in the house of the king, and that neither elder god nor mortal hand shall stay him. The second decree is the judgment, that all who have borne the sign, whether in loyalty or in defiance, will be gathered to the great court. There the pallid mask will look upon them, and in that gaze each soul will see the sum of its days. Those faithful to his covenant will walk in the cities of the starborn, the faithless will be given to the feaster from afar. The third decree is the division, that flesh and shadow will contend until the last turning of the heavens, neither prevailing until the appointed hour. Then the king, robed in tatters of suns and moons, will join them into one dominion. The fourth decree is the renewal, that when the siege is lifted, the streets of Carcosa will ring with voices unheard since before. The casting out, and the waters of Hali will carry ships whose sails bear the yellow sign to the edges of the worlds. The kingdoms of men will vanish, but the undying realm will stand beneath the nameless throne. These decrees are eternal. Though the tongues of nations perish, their words endure, born in dreams and visions to those marked by the sign. Some proclaim them openly and perish for it, others keep them in silence, awaiting the stars' alignment. All are bound to them, for the law of the coming age lies in the decrees of the king in yellow. It is taught among the pale-robed seers of the southern waste, and murmured in the ruined academies of Carcosa, that Hastur. His influence is neither holy dread nor holy revelation, but a union of the two, a state wherein reason dissolves and opposites entwine. He is no mere god of ruin nor spirit of madness, but a principle given form, whose presence exposes the barrenness of certainty and the stage play of all mortal seeking. Those who have seen the yellow sign or read beyond the first act are altered beyond recall. Whether king or hermit, poet or fool, their names fade from the memory of their own flesh. They scrawl maps to cities that should not be, speak in tongues no ear recalls, and paint visions in ash and pitch. This is not madness as the world reckons it, but a reordering of the self around a silence that devours all meaning. Hastur teaches by withholding, through the empty throne, the mask that never reveals a face. In his realm, the answer to every question is its own erasure, and the self that seeks him is shown only the futility of selfhood. The lands touched by his shadow are likewise changed, grass unmoved by wind, beasts absent, water that reflects not the sky, but alien suns. Those who linger there take on the stillness of their surroundings, losing all urgency until only the sign remains in their thoughts. The change begins subtly, dreams of golden mists, a name repeated in an unknown voice, the taste of salt at waking. Soon the real yields to the imagined, and the imagined to something beyond imagining. Worship is not required, suggestion suffices. Those who turn away still find themselves arranged by his unseen hand, their days falling into patterns too exact for chance. Yet some call this exaltation. They paint with impossible clarity, compose music heard in wind and heartbeat. Such works consume their makers, leaving only the creation as testament. The sign cannot be destroyed. It persists in dream, in memory, in chance markings on stone. Any man may walk into Carcosa if he leaves himself behind, for the transformation is from self to role, and the king is both playwright and audience. Some name Hastur a contagion, a sickness of thought. It begins with a symbol glimpsed, a line recalled, a name overheard. Change is gradual, the hands tremble with revelation. Speech turns elliptical, forgotten languages return unbidden. The past erodes without grief, love and hate alike lose their weight. This is not possession, but replacement. The person remains outwardly whole, yet serves as a channel for the king's presence. The deeper the contact, the finer the ruin. Scholars revising the play find themselves completing it without intent. Artists who scorn the sign see it in clouds and branches. Philosophers who deny Carcosa dream of its gates. They do not serve his will so much as enact his nature, as gravity enacts the fall. The cost is erasure without pain. Joy becomes memory, fear becomes silence, the self thins to a function, witnessing, echoing, repeating. In mirrors their faces waver, children shy from their touch. They are no longer of the world, though they walk within it. This state is called the gift by some, curse by others. The body may alter subtly, or not at all, only the eyes betray the void within. There are no cures, no wards. The sign once seen is indelible. The play once begun must be played to its end. The final act may never close, for the king's stage has no curtain. To know Hastur is to be undone without struggle, changed not in frenzy but in stillness, until only the role remains and the actor is forgotten. The world moves on, yet for the marked, every step is toward Carcosa. Among those marked by the yellow sign, it is said that all art is but a shadow of the first composition, the play called The King in Yellow. It was not written by hand, but whispered in dream to the first soul who dared to remember what it was shown. No stage contains it, no curtain falls upon its end. Its beauty is unmeasured, its terror without scale, and its history is strewn with the minds it has perfected into ruin. To read the play is to be read in turn. It reshapes itself to the one who holds it, exploiting every hidden fracture of the spirit. To some it appears as a chronicle of love, to others as a war between worlds. The words do not merely tell, they reveal. Each performance engraves the lines upon the players until script and self are indistinguishable. Props alter between scenes, actors change parts without remembering the change. In time, there is no need for the written page. Audiences dwindle, yet the stage remains lit. Critics write lines not their own. Painters render images that shift when unobserved, and music drawn from its cadence lingers in the mind until silence feels like loss. The art it inspires is always beautiful, and always fatal. The sign, wrought in gold or ash, pleases the eye even as it marks the soul. Carcosa is imagined as sublime, its towers pale, its waters still, yet all who behold it descend into dissolution. Those who imitate the work do not escape. The truest imitations become the thing itself, their makers vanishing or watching their creations consume the space around them. The king does not destroy, he distills. Some call the result madness, but its works are precise, symmetrical, complete. In that perfection lies the annihilation of all else. To create beneath the sign is to remember something not one's own, and in remembering, to surrender it back to its source. There are brotherhoods that bind themselves to the king not in fear, but in ambition. They seek to write the lines of the world as one writes lines for a stage, weaving the sign into bloodlines, into architecture, into calendars. Some construct palaces whose halls mirror the plan of Carcosa when seen from above. Others embed key phrases in the speech of children, that in age they may speak them on the appointed day. These orders do not pray for deliverance, they rehearse. They stage fragments of the play in secret, altering words and motions to test the limits of their influence. Each believes itself to hold the truest reading of the cosmic script, and each seeks to impose that reading upon the age to come. Yet all serve within the same performance, unaware that their rivalries are themselves written parts. The most daring among them learn, at last, that their parchment was filled before their ink was spilled, and that their grand designs are but recursions of a pattern older than stars. They are not authors, but characters. The palace they raise is not their own, and its gates open only toward Hali. Thus the weight of fate lies upon all who bear the sign. Whether they kneel in worship or scheme to direct the play, every act is performance, every breath, a line spoken in a drama without end. And somewhere beyond the veil, the king in yellow turns the page and watches. Have you seen the yellow sign?
Along the shore, the cloud waves break. The twin suns sink behind the lake. The shadows lengthen in Carcosa. Strange is the night where black stars rise, and strange moons circle through the skies. But stranger still is lost Carcosa. Songs that the Hyades shall sing, where flap the tatters of the king, must die unheard in dim Carcosa. Song of my soul, my voice is dead. Die thou, unsung, as tears unshed shall dry and die in lost Carcosa.